In August of 2008, Michael Lewis, by the way, a lot of this, you can read this a lot in Michael Lewis's books. In August of 2008, Michael Lewis had lunch with the man he toppled by his book, Liar's Poker, John Goodfriend. The only thing that Michael Lewis and John Goodfriend agreed about at that lunch was the fact that the main effect of turning a partnership into a corporation was to transfer the financial risk to the shareholders. That's the only thing they agreed upon in the whole lunch. But he also admitted to Michael Lewis, quote, when things go wrong, it's their problem. He admitted that. You're right. He said it was brilliant. Partnership, corporation. So when things go wrong, it's their problem. And they don't understand what's going on here. Trust to blind faith. Your book destroyed my career, John kept saying. Would you like a deviled egg? He passed the plate. And at that moment, Lewis thought, wow, how ironic. Who knew that a simple egg could be made so complicated and yet so appealing? So he took one. And he concluded the conversation by saying to Goodfriend, well, I guess something for nothing will never lose its charm. A simple egg, a simple mortgage, a simple stock, a deviled egg, a derivative, a securitized asset, all hard to unscramble. And nobody asked why, and nobody asked how. All of this kind of raises the issue of trust. Who do we trust? This is a poll by the Zogby Interactive Organization of the American population. This is 2007. We don't have 2008 data yet. Who do we trust? Well, who don't we trust? We don't trust the media, the president, corporate leaders, and Congress. Pretty big numbers. Who don't we trust the most? Congress, and it's a tie between the president and corporate leaders. Who do we trust right now? Friends and co-workers. That's it. That's just the backdrop. That's part of the story. Now, the interesting thing that I wanted to say to this gentleman at that breakfast that I mentioned, when he said, who'd have thunk this? No one could have predicted all this mess, is that storm clouds are in fact predictable. And there's three aspects to this that are predictable in the last several years: our behavior, our technology, and our economics. One, breakdown of accountability. We ask too little of each other. For example, we ask in the wintertime, clear the snow from the top of your car, please, so it might not cause an accident. Most of us do that. A lot of people don't. We ask each other to stop at red lights. And yet our behavior pattern is such that when you go through a green light, particularly if you're first in line and the light turns green, what do? You look both ways. We've become a nation of verses. Us versus them, this versus that, conservatives versus liberals, Republicans versus Democrats. You know, we've become a splintered group of people. And as a result, we're beginning to mix up market norms and social norms. New financial instruments, this time, I mean, of the whiz kids kind. These instruments evolved to normative abuse, you know, in our financial society. And they've also evolved to naive acceptance, because few asked how. Thirdly, the economics was predictable. Globalization became a major new parameter, you know, in the late 20th century and early 21st century. Because companies in the United States were searching for the lowest cost, we went around the world looking for somebody who would produce it for us. That caused the debut of China Inc., brought China onto the mainstream. E-technology in the mid-1990s. Netscape releases the browser. The internet, cables we're talking about, not continents. The borderless society, the book. Bandwidth was the issue, not barriers. And as a result of this new activity, massive amounts of wealth and liquidity were created. And as this wealth was amassing, you got to do something with it. You can't just put it into CDs. So all this wealth is chasing what? Alpha. It's chasing outsized returns. So new products are being created. And as a result, era of easy money surfaced because of all this liquidity. And leverage then became normative for some, became addictive for others. This is kind of a backdrop. The lack of trust, the lack of accountability. You can see it in the behavior patterns. You can see it in snow on roofs. You can see it in people don't stop at red lights. And we don't have time tonight, but there's all sorts of stories to be told about how we as a culture have shifted our behavior patterns, shifted, you know, the normative response to certain types of issues, like being late at daycare centers,